Hello, and welcome to today's webinar. We're excited for you to join us today as our panelist demonstrates how to incorporate real-life business scenarios with business communication writing and technology each step of the way. In the coming minutes, you'll see her actual course design in Canvas, including templates and capstone projects with business scenarios that you can integrate into your course. Our expert panelist, Jackie Martin from Palomar College, would like this presentation to be interactive. Please utilize the question and answer and chat portals in the Zoom platform to have conversation amongst yourselves and Jackie. The panelists will answer any of your questions at the conclusion of today's presentation. This webinar is being recorded and you'll receive a copy in the coming days. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to my friend, Jackie Martin. Jackie, how are you?
I'm great, Ryan, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to this presentation. I'm really looking forward to presenting to you how I utilize this textbook in my business communication class to teach students about the business world and to integrate technology into this very standard business comm classroom. All right, so I'd like to start off by just letting you know why I decided to use this technique and this approach in my class and in my textbook. And it's because I had a sense that students were looking for a much more practical approach to their writing. And so by integrating real world current business scenarios into the textbook and my course, I felt that students would have a better sense of how to apply their business writing skills on the job. I come from a community college district. I teach at Palomar College, and I've been teaching there for many years and teaching business communications and technical writing for years as well. And I'm the chair of the business department. And so I do get a lot of feedback from my students in terms of their courses. I'm always asking them how they liked a course and how they felt about it. And this approach, since I've been using this approach in this textbook and with this course, I'm getting feedback from students that they feel like it's perhaps one of the first courses that they've taken in their business curriculum that feels like they're learning something about business, and they really do start using the approaches that I teach them in terms of how they write emails, how they communicate on teams in a group and so forth. They're actually using these techniques in the workplace right away, and they seem to be very relieved to be learning these skills. So what I'd like to do today is focus on two business scenarios. And in doing that, I'll use my textbook from the Kendall Hunt site. And then I will also use my Canvas course that I have built in Canvas, of course. And I'll be showing you this from I'm looking at the instructor view. I'll pop into the student view and show you how that looks as well. But I'll start with the very first chapter in the book. And so in chapter 1, I do lay a bit of a foundation for communications, for the concepts and theory and the history of communications, and try to emphasize the importance of that. And one of the communication cycles, the more current cycles that I focus on in this chapter is the 6-step communication cycle. And it has the 6 steps of aiming and composing, transmitting, giving feedback, analyzing, learning, changing, and improving. And so this felt kind of theoretical to me, but I liked the model. So what I did was I created a business scenario, and you'll see that at the end of the chapter. I created these characters, 3 characters, and I used them in chapters 1 and 2. Mr. Smith is a sales director, Ms. Malloy is a marketing director, Mr. Ruiz, marketing and sales manager. And then I've created this company, a theoretical company called Business Writing with an Edge Consulting Group. And so I set up this scenario where Mr. Smith and Ms. Malloy are working on a marketing team. They've been co-workers working together for several years. They have a business relationship that then turns into a more personal relationship. Ms. Malloy is not interested in pursuing that anymore and then has a hard time having Mr. Smith stopping the communications with her. And so, as you can imagine, this brings up all kinds of business scenarios and questions, right? So It deals with human resources. It deals with conflict resolution. It deals with policies and procedures that are now becoming more common in the workplace in any organization, which deal with, having to disclose if you are dating someone after a certain period of time or in a relationship with someone. It gets at the hierarchy of communications and relationships. And so to that end, I also in this chapter cover various org charts. And so that I actually have them, look at a more formal org chart, and then maybe a flat org chart like this, and then show them in Word how to create an organizational chart. So I have them actually going out and looking for an organizational chart on Google. They download that, and then they use that feature to present an org chart for the company that they're going to be working with or creating in a team throughout the class. Okay, so I introduced that in chapter 1. So the students are then creating a table in this first, I start with announcements, but in this first writing assignment. So I also design my course so that the students have about 40% of it is based on the information in the textbook, and they go out to the companion website and take quizzes for each chapter. And then they have a writing assignment. So the writing assignment is the one that I was just describing in this. And so they're going to create that table. They're going to integrate that workplace scenario into a Word table that helps them learn how to work with a table in Word. And it also really helps them practice their critical thinking skills. So the question I often get from students in this activity is, well, should I be writing it based on the way that Miss Malloy should have handled the situation? Because in the book, I say that she escalates it a little bit and threatens to sue the company. Or should I respond in a way that I feel that she should have responded? And so my response is, whatever you'd like to do, and just keep it consistent. But often students, because at my level, they are working, they are reflecting on their own workplace experiences, and then they're looking at the cues and the thoughts and the prompts in this chapter for how might this team respond to the situation, or how should they respond to the situation. They're integrating all of that and writing very elaborate, very professional responses in this table. With each of my activities, I have a rubric, and so I balance the course out. Really, I'm always thinking about it in sort of thirds. So a third of what I'm doing is grading on content and responses. A third is on the formatting that they're using in Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. And the other third is from the information theory concepts and practices that come from the book itself. Okay. I move forward with this same business scenario in chapter 2. And this chapter is titled Using Technology to Deliver the Message Successfully. In this chapter, I'll just get straight to the templates. Essentially, I'm talking about the technology that they use and know anyhow, but I'm asking them to look at it in a more professional manner. Still, they're using this workplace scenario from chapter 1. So the first part of the assignment has them creating an email. I talk a lot about email in the text because it's the primary means by which we all communicate. And the students, I think, very much underestimate how important email is. And so I teach them the etiquette. I've created this technique that I've been using for years, which I kind of like, and it's just a 3-5-8 rule. In paragraph 1, I tell them to be writing about 3 to 5 lines, and then expand a little bit more in paragraph 2. And then paragraph 3 is where we're creating goodwill, looking for action, and 3 to 5 lines. The student is, but I also tell them if you can do it in more, or in a more concise manner and fewer sentences, that's fine too. So as you can see, this student has created, here's Miss Malloy, here's John Smith. He's created these emails for them, fictitious emails. And in the first email, he's writing to Miss Malloy and about the relationship, the use of company email, and so forth. So this is a just a neutral, message, and then the response to that, another email message. And so again, the students are kind of, they're using their imagination, they're using their critical writing skill, critical thinking skills, and they've got this dialogue going between these fictitious characters, which, who are really kind of becoming more real to them. And so here's a response to that. And then we talk about kind of the differences in communications. This is a little fun thing for them to realize that we're all using our cell phones now for work as well. We're integrating our personal and professional lives. So they get to come up with an example here of a message, an appropriate message, and I focus on tone and style and length of the message. And then in this step, they're creating like an IM. So we talk about different chats and features available in things like Teams. A lot of people are using Teams now in their workplaces. And so that kind of drives that point home. And then in this step, they're actually creating a tweet. So a lot of the students are not familiar with Twitter as a work platform. And so this chapter really focuses on social media as a basic skill in the workplace that they should have some knowledge of. So then they write a tweet. And step 6 deals with WordPress. So I have them going out and realizing that there's lots of skills they can learn with WordPress, lots of business skills and so here they're writing a self-reflective blog. So not only am I introducing them to WordPress in terms of a job skill for content writing and web pages and so forth, but in this case, they're learning how to reflect what a blog is and how to use it, a reflective first-person tone in this piece. Okay, so that's the first scenario. Chapter 3 in my course really deals with it's a review of grammar because I find that they need that. So I won't go into that too much. In chapter 4, I have an assignment that deals with positive news, neutral news, and bad news messages. And the students say this assignment helps them write effective memos and emails at work, and they start using this right away. So one of the most challenging things that students, that we all have to deal with, again, is conflict. I set up this sort of, scenario in the first 2 chapters for them to start thinking about these things. And in this chapter, I also have them giving peer review because I'm prepping them to work in a team for what I call my capstone project. So in chapters 5 and 6 in this book, I move into the second business scenario that I wanted to talk about today, and that is the use of an email marketing campaign to solve a business problem or goal. And so I have the students break up into groups, and so I'm using in Canvas, I'm using the People tab, and then this is their chapter 5 marketing project. And so they, and then I assign anonymous leaders in these groups. And then for about 3 to 4 weeks, they move through different processes within this, this capstone project where they are having to research email marketing companies and then decide which of 3 companies is the best. So this becomes they use the request for proposal technique, which would be, going out and getting a comparative bid from 3 companies, technique that's been in business for a very long time. And then they have to research. So the first step is to research the email marketing companies. So these are real companies. They learn a lot about that, I think, and it's a topic that I've included in this book and course for several years now because it just doesn't seem to change. All companies at some point in time are going to be writing white papers, regardless of the business sector or a nonprofit sector that students will be working in, and they are going to, many of them, business majors, general business majors, business transfer majors, from advertising, media, marketing, business management. I think most of them are going to be exposed to or expected to perform in some capacity with an email marketing company, hiring that company to help them have a different presence or larger presence in a market, or to change customer, views of their product and so forth. So they choose 3 email marketing companies. They have to actually call them up, get pricing, and include real data in this report. So they write a 10 to 12 page white paper. And based on that white paper, and they're using, the other beauty, I think, in this project is that I'm teaching them very, very commonly used and important features in Word, and they love it. When I teach them how to use how to create a table of contents using the automated features and subheadings that populate that table of contents, and I teach them how to properly use citations in the paper, and then have those citations show up automatically in the works cited. They all wish they had taken this course at the very beginning of their college career, how to use headers and footers and insert page numbers automatically. So that's the white paper. And then from the white paper, then I move to the inclusion of the oral communication part of the BizCom, any business communications course, and that is how to present effectively. Now, in the era of COVID, what I've done to adapt the PowerPoint project is that I have them use narration, and they get to create their own company. They think of a company because they are a company that is going to come up with a business problem or goal. And so that allows them to really be creative and to choose things that they're really interested in as young people, mostly young people, in the classes. And then they're going to present, right? So they've come up with a business problem, business goal. They've written their white paper, and now they're going to be presenting this. They're asking for money, right? That's part of the RFP proposal, request for proposal. And so they're going to be sitting in front of the finance team within their company, or maybe outside investors. They take this very seriously. When I'm in the classroom, I record the presentation. They dress up, they market, they brand themselves, they brand themselves as a company, and present this oral PowerPoint presentation. And the classroom is their audience. The classroom is the board of directors or the executives or the outside finance company that they're pitching their product to. And we're competitive in the classroom. I have the students compete and grade one another, peer review. And that's always very helpful. And then the person with the best PowerPoint project or the best white paper or the best assignment for each of, I think, 5 chapters in my book gets to publish that as sample projects in my book. And so they take that very seriously. Then they can use that information on their resume and in their portfolio, which is the last part of the course and the book. In the last final chapters, they're doing their resume cover letter and doing a portfolio. They take this capstone project, they can put that in their portfolio online, and they like that as well. So really the whole course, the whole book is really very much tied together. Let me show you some of the student examples. I'll just go back to the assignments. I have an equal number of assignments per chapter throughout the book. And so this was chapters 5 and 6. Chapter 5 focuses on the RFP, the white paper, and the PowerPoint. And then in chapter 6, they present orally in the classroom. In a non-COVID environment, they would be presenting as I discussed. But in a COVID environment, I have them use the insert sound or Camtasia to narrate the PowerPoint. These chapters 5 and 6 are worth about a third of their grade. They actually have to work in a team. If they don't work in a team, they don't get a grade for the project, and everybody shares the same grade. They learn a lot about teamwork on this project, and they have positive feedback about it afterwards.
Jackie,
Yes.
Could you expand on how they do group activity work in a COVID environment?
Sure. I'd love to. Yeah, I'll go back to the people tab and the marketing project. So here's the group. They all have a group. I actually do a screenshot of this and send it via an announcement and say, okay, here's your groups. I've assigned them randomly. There's a group leader. The group leader has to report to me. They have to be the person that is communicating with me every week and giving me feedback. I allow the students or encourage the students to use all the features within their homepage in Canvas, so they can use, the Pages feature to upload files, or the Files feature to upload files. They can post announcements to one another within their group, and they can actually collaborate on Google Docs. But also in this COVID environment, and because everybody's online, and because I have students from, and we all do, from many different time zones, I encourage them to use their own manner, whatever they choose. And so I know students last semester used WhatsApp, because I had 4 students in one group who were in 4 different time zones. And so they broke themselves out into 2 groups and communicated on their own. And then I encourage my students to have their own Zoom sessions. So they create their own Zoom rooms, and I teach them how to do that. And then they schedule an office hour with me where I come to their Zoom room, and then I observe them in the Zoom room and am available to answer questions as they're working along on the project.
That's
So,
outstanding. Thank you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. And I'm just kind of watching the time. It's 10:22. I don't know if it's time to stop the presentation or and take some feedback or questions.
Yeah, I have several here.
Okay.
And we're getting a lot of feedback. They love the integration of the grading rubrics.
Okay, great.
That's really helpful.
Yeah.
Personally, as an employer, I love the inclusion of the white papers, email writing skills, social media analysis. That really gives your students a step up compared to others entering the market. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
How do your students react to the integration of business case scenarios?
Well, it is, I strike a fine balance between giving them structure, a lot of structure in the course via I'll go back to the assignments and the rubrics, via the rubrics. So for example, if I go to the chapter 5, capstone project, there's a pretty specific rubric here that they're following. So that's the structure, but then that there's an expectation on my part, and I tell them this, for them to be creative, to think outside the box, to work as a team, to apply their critical thinking skills. And that's challenging for some students. And sometimes it even comes down to culturally challenging. If students are from cultures where they are not encouraged to be independent or creative. So I have to work through that with them and give them a lot of coaching. And I do that via my Zoom sessions. I have live lectures every week with the students. And so when I get questions from students where they might be struggling with, well, how do I apply that? Because it really is a very high level thinking process to integrate that, to be creative, to follow a prompt, follow a structure, and then be able to apply, to pull from, but I talk very explicitly about this, that they should be pulling from their own business experience, their own life experience, from the book, the examples in the book, and from the business knowledge that they've learned in other business courses that they're taking. Because a lot of my students are transfer students, business transfer students, and then biz general students, where they're getting pretty high level business skills in their classes anyhow. And so they pull from all of those classes. So I do have to coach them. I do have to prompt them. I do have to keep them moving along in the first couple chapters and giving them permission to be creative. But once they get into the kind of the rhythm of it, they like it.
That's great, really helpful. This professor has a lot of young students with not a lot of business experience.
Mm-hmm.
Are they able to extrapolate from the cues and the examples to write truly industry standard documents?
They are. They're smarter than we think. And yeah, they are. And I have a lot of young students in my classes too. They are most of my students are between like 18 and maybe 24, 26, but the majority of them are more in they're transfer students. They're 18 to 20, 18 to 21. And they do very well with this. Actually, they write very sophisticated documents. I'm very impressed. Yes. And I would say business level industry standards, they're a lot sharper than, and this is the other thing. These are students from an information age, the technology age. There's a lot of information that even if they are not working in a business environment, that they've been exposed to. And they don't, a lot of my students don't have a lot of business experience, but they do. They don't, maybe they're not a manager yet, or they're not on their career track, but they've been working in the service industry. We know that, right? That a lot of our young people are working in the service industry, at least where I live. I'm in San Diego. And so just tons of them. And here's the other thing, my students are young, and yet they come from families who have their own businesses, because there are so many small businesses in here, and I think across the country, frankly. And half of the students either already own their own business, they're part of the gig economy, because that's another certificate that we have in the business department, is a gig economy certificate. So a lot of we push entrepreneurship for our students, and it's just a natural fit here. We're the brewery capital of the world, country, and so forth, and it's a big city. So students either have their own business already on the side, or they want to start their own business. And so, for example, if I just show you, if I go to this, I'll show you some of the examples in the templates here. This is a student project. So we follow that the process that I told you about. Is it perfect? No. But is it, I think, good and compelling? Yeah. So San Diego Brewing Company is actually a San Diego-based brewing company. And the students did this PowerPoint presentation. I think the student who's speaking on this, I think her brother, is one of the owners of the brewery. I know the brewery. I've been there. And so they have slides, on each of them, and then narration. And she gave me permission to put this in my book, so it's all kind of cleansed, except for her narration. So let's just run this a little bit.
First and foremost, I am very pleased and excited to be able to share with you our team's assessment of the following marketing firms. As project leader, my task was to delegate portions of research to my fellow group members and to decipher the pros and cons and the facets that each of these firms contain that could positively benefit our SD Brewing Company. When looking for the best suited marketing firm, the team at SD Brewing had many things to consider. The firm in which SD Brewing was looking for had to have many of the same values and ethics similar to those that we at SD Brewing abide by. Considering that there are many e-commerce options currently available, we had to limit and narrow down our choices to the following: BigCommerce, Ignite Visibility, and lastly, Internet Marketing Inc. In the following presentation, I will be giving a quick synopsis of each firm and the research that our team was able to compile. Having worked tirelessly and diligently to decipher BigCommerce's core values and features, our team was able to produce some pros and cons about this firm. BigCommerce offers its customers the availability to test out a trial version of their service for free for 15.
I'll go through this a little bit more quickly. I wanted to
The following graph shows the level of importance of certain characteristics of BigCommerce. Ignite Visibility. The last firm we...
So that's an example of a PowerPoint presentation that the students do. And the other thing that I do is I actually have the film crew. We have a pretty good film crew at Palomar. And they come in and actually film the students doing their presentations. And then we have popcorn night the next week. And we then critique each of them, and they get to watch themselves, performing. So
that's really neat. I love that idea.
Yeah, they love that. They love doing that. So yeah, and so here is the and I give them a lesson. I've created this template for the white paper. It's basically a comparison and contrast paper, and it's also persuasive paper, because they're trying to get the investing right. And I lay it out very easily for them, but these are going to be actual companies. And they present the advantages, disadvantages. They have a summary of each, a final comparison summary. And then they're going to have Excel charts and graphs in there. But this is the skeleton that I use to teach them how to do all the automated features in Word. They love this. And then in terms of the actual, let me pull up an actual final formatting and content. So this is, it would be in color, right? But this is one of the sample papers, the inserted automatic title page, the table of contents, the business problem and statement. I teach them how to use, a certain amount of limited bullets in a white paper and or numbers or tables, and then graphs for each of the companies as well. They have to plot the same data, on each of the graphs. You want to compare apples with apples, not apples and oranges. So they learn that. And they just write a very, basic, clean, white paper. This is their first introduction to a white paper. And I think they do a fine job. They have to have 5 to 8 citations throughout, and that's an automated works cited page.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What instructor resources are provided to people that purchase the publication?
Well, let's go back to the book. So for each chapter, we'll start with chapter 1. It has this, it flows, same layout. So the text itself is always the first link. And then templates and resources for each chapter, like the ones that I was showing you. I tend to put them in a couple different places just so that students really get it. I direct them to the templates, and they love that. They have these model, for them to visually see what their end product should look like is very important for them and very helpful. Instead of just reading the directions, it's really good for visual learners to see this. And all the resources are in one page as well for each of the chapters, but chapter by chapter, there's a template tab. And then also in the same location for each chapter will be PowerPoints. I created the PowerPoints for all the chapters. So the students can use the PowerPoints to, I always encourage them to read the PowerPoints as an overview of the course. And I touch on all of these in my lectures. We go through this as an overview. Then they're directed to read the chapter thoroughly, and then also come back to the PowerPoints when they review for their quiz. Each chapter has a quiz. Key terms are listed here, and it just directs them in the hard copy version of the book to the pages. In the e-text version, they will actually have to look, use this as a key term, Control F, and look for this topic, to find it. So this is just not the definition of anything, but just directing them back to the book, to that place in the book. And then the final thing is the quiz. And so the quiz is the non-writing portion of the book that is testing them on the information in the textbook. And I give them 20 minutes for each quiz. I give them 2 days to take it. I always have my assignments due on a Sunday evening. Quiz is open on a Sunday morning, close on a Tuesday night at midnight. They have 2 days to take the quiz, and they have 20 minutes once they start to take the quiz to complete it.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
And that stuff too is all customizable. You can change the time based on your course section, that sort of thing. But
right. And I won't, well, I'll show you that. Let's see, I won't show the students, but I'll show you what the grade book looks like. And so the grade book for me is the compilation of the quiz grades. And yeah, it is, as Ryan was saying, customizable. I'm not sure why it's not popping up here, but there we go. And so you can see the student list, and the component allows you to get into each of the quizzes and see, what the students did. You can pull up the answers that they got right, the answers they got wrong. And my quizzes are randomized, each semester. I haven't found them on places like Quizlet or what's the other side, so that's good news. And I've been using the book, for several years now. But yeah, this is, customizable, and you can search for a student's grade by their last name, first name, and so forth. So.
Well, thank you so much, Jackie. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Thanks everybody for coming today.
And all attendees, thank you once again for coming. I'm excited to share with you a couple of business scenarios that Jackie's written up. So I'll include that along with a link to the webinar in the coming days.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. I hope to hear from you. Feel free to email me and ask me any questions that you might have about the book or Canvas or how I teach the class.
Great. Well, it's been a pleasure, Jackie. I hope everyone has a great rest of their week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.